All right, in this video, we are going to be going over one of my favorite, most hateable exercises out there. I hate to do them, but I also love them because they're fantastic, and that is the Turkish get-up. A few things about the Turkish get-up is we go for hours about how awesome the Turkish get-up is. I say it is actually the most important exercise that you can learn, aside from the swing, and to me, it's arguable. I go back and forth. I personally, if I'm going to teach someone anything, if they give me carte blanche, any exercise you're going to learn to do the rest of your life, Turkish get-up. I know Gray Cook, founder of FMS, said that one time. I truly believe it as well because you can get everything you need from it. You can build strength. You can use it for conditioning. It's phenomenal for mobility and ranges of motion. It checks all the boxes for being able to have time under tension. Might not be a hypertrophy like godsend, but you can still get fucking bigger with it as long as you're loading it properly and getting enough reps and whatnot. And it's functional. It's the most functional thing you can do. In a lot of my content, I talk about how all-cause mortality goes up when older people have a fall and they can't get up. That's why we have Life Alert. Well, the Turkish get-up is literally getting up off the ground. So you're training your body to always be able to get up and get back down off the ground under control while holding a load, balancing a load over your head. So without anything in your hands, it should be a lot easier. Now, that being said, when it comes to learning the Turkish get-up, use something weightless. I say weightless in the term of, I got a yoga block here, right? You could use a shoe, right? I got an Olympic lifting shoe I've used before. You can use a folded up towel, something that has like no weight to it. And you make a fist and you balance it on your fist. Don't open up and hold it like this because this isn't doing anything for you. You balance it on your fist. And the reason for that is our arm should be locked out. So it's locked out and it creates one vertical plane right here. We want our arm to be as vertical as possible the entire time. When you have something balanced on your fist, what's going to happen is if you lose that vertical, it falls down, plain and simple. So there's a not zero chance that while I'm demoing this exercise, this with yoga block might fall off, which means that I lost my proper positioning. Now, once that arm is locked out, when we roll and we press up, all we're doing, and I want you to really visualize this, is we're taking our body and we're turning it into a series of Lego blocks. And we're building those Lego blocks up so that they all work together, and taking this one chunk of verticalness, weight that we're building, and we're just gonna raise it all the way up, and then we're gonna deconstruct all the yoga blocks and take that vertical chunk of meat wagon, weight, whatever, all the way back down to the ground. If you're doing multiple reps in a row, you just keep that arm locked the entire time, right? You're not bringing it down and resetting and then pressing it up and doing that whole thing, right? Keep it locked. Hold that time under tension, really embrace that. You're gonna find that the first thing that goes on a lot of this stuff is your grip. Cool, that's great. We want strong grip anyway, so your grip absolutely is gonna get stronger. When you're practicing though, you need to be able to own this slow and smooth and controlled with a block or a shoe balanced on your hand, because if you can't do it like that, what's gonna happen is when you start loading it, any mistakes or errors that you weren't aware of, because the block is self-correcting, the shoe is self-correcting, the shoe will let you know when you're making a mistake. But if you don't spend enough time with that, ironing out all of those mistakes, any mistakes you're making are gonna get exposed and amplified in a vulnerable position when there's weight over your head. And you're gonna find that you have a harder time progressing. So always start with the block and own that block nice and smooth. And you'll find out that when you do that properly, all we're doing is we're just leveraging, we're creating levers all the way up and all the way down. And so we're leveraging our body to raise a heavy piece of metal from the ground all the way to overhead and then taking it back down under control, safely. Practice, practice, practice with this block. I had a client recently that was like skipped over the shoe and went straight to lightweight and was racing through it. And they're like, oh yeah, I can't seem to progress. Like I'm running out of steam. Like I could do this weight, but like the next weight, it seems impossible. And I was like, well, that's because all the mistakes that you're making, you can handle with a light enough weight and cover it up because your body's strong enough. However, when you get to a point where you have to have the technique right to be able to hit the right leverages, well, now you didn't learn all of that because we didn't spend enough time with the shoe or the block. And I've had consistently every client that goes off and does it on their own without following this instruction comes back and is like, yeah, I don't know why I can't seem to progress in weight. It's like, well, let's see what it looks like with a shoe. And sure enough, the shoe falls off. It's like, oh, I guess I was doing something wrong. So again, time with the yoga block, time with the shoe, reps on reps on reps. That being said, let's go through how this works. So we're gonna start off laying down on the ground. When we lay down, we want our legs to be at a 45-degree angle. Arms are gonna be at a 45-degree angle, not straight out to the side, right? 45-degree angle down from your shoulders. The reason for that is we're going to pull through one arm and press through the other leg to lift ourselves up. So the way that looks is if I'm laying down, flat on the ground, my legs are to 45, arms are to 45. Now for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go at this angle so that you can see things a little bit better. Now with my yoga block, from here, I'm going to press this up. That's a terrible, terrible idea with the Oura ring on. 1 second. I'm going to take that off for a minute. I should put it on that side. Oh, hold on. It doesn't fit. Fuck it. All right. With the block, like so, right? Not relatively centered there, and already it's wanting to fuck around on me. So my arm is locked out. My leg comes up, bent so that my knee's about, a little more than 90 degrees. Now from this arm, I'm going to pull through this elbow and press through this leg to bring myself up. All right, to our start position here. Now, you'll notice there's a straight line from my hand going all the way down through my bottom elbow right here, right? I'm packing my lat, so I'm not wearing this thing as an earring. So I'm staying strong through here, and I'm not shrugging down, relaxed here. I'm pressing through this bottom arm, right? So we're not lounging on the beach, we're reaching that elbow into the ground. Now from here, we're gonna come out to what we call our tall sit position. So I'm gonna take this hand, my left hand, I'm gonna place the heel of my palm on the ground. I'm just going to press myself up and rotate it back. So it's pressing behind me and I'm pressing through the ground like so. Now, I'm not, again, lounging, letting any of my shoulders sit in my ears. I'm trying to get as much space between my shoulders and the ears as possible, packing those lats the entire time. From there, I'm gonna press through my right foot. I'm gonna bend my left knee, and I'm gonna bring myself up to the windmill position. Now from here, if we stop and look, I'm creating a triangle between my hand, my left foot, and my right foot. And if I rotate to the side so that you can see, I'm creating said triangle. Everything is all in the same plane, like so. Now from here, I'm gonna sit back to my heel and then trace my hand up to my hip. Right? That's my windmill up. And you'll notice from here, I'm turning to face the camera, obviously, but everything is staying in line, right along that plane there. Now, to stand up, I'm going to slide this foot into a lunge position. Right? My bicep is still even with my ear, arm is straight, lat is packed. Then I'm gonna stand up in my lunge, nice and smooth. And I lost the block off the camera a little bit. So that is how we do our get up. Now to get back down, you reach down, tap your leg. That's the leg that we step back into the lunge with, like so. Now we just reverse all of our steps. I'm gonna open up to the side here. Now, again, this is similar to our open rocking position, okay? So opening up, or if I'm over here, I'm gonna be like so. Now I'm gonna turn and face this knee, okay? 90 degrees here, hand on my hip. I'm gonna press my hip and hinge my hips so my glute touches my heel. Take this hand, I'm gonna trace it down my knee and straight out to the side. So I'm creating that triangle once again. Now from the view that the camera has, what that will look like is step down, open, and I'm going to sit back and trace, and again, be vertical over this hand. You can see how everything is in a relatively straight line. So if you shoot a laser from this back heel through my wrist, it goes perfectly straight. Now from here, I'm going to kick this foot down and sit down to my tall sit position, pressing this arm nice and strong, nice and smooth as I sit down. I'm gonna get on the palm of my heel, or heel of my palm, rotate down. Ah, motherfucker. We were doing so good. All right, so from my tall sit position, heel of the palm, I'm gonna rotate down to my elbow, nice and slow, being stacked through here. And you notice we're back to that straight line, hand all the way down through the elbow. And then from here, I'm gonna press this elbow into the ground, drive this heel down, and I'm gonna press myself away from my hand, using my abs to slowly lower me down to that very beginning position. And if I have a bell in my hand, I bring it down and roll to the side in that fetal position. Now, with that being said, obviously, when you're just rolling through it, not talking through it, it's a lot easier to balance that block. What it looks like with the kettlebell, there's a couple key things to keep in mind. Is that the block is great for keeping everything balanced, keeping your arm locked out, being mindful of where your body's moving through space. Something that is important is when you are holding the kettlebell, when you are starting off, make sure that your wrist is neutral the entire time. Very often I see people with their wrist bent back because what is very common is when that bell is sitting on the top of our forearm, it's not pleasant. It's uncomfortable. And so by bending it back and trying to hold the weight here, we're trying to relieve some of the pressure on our forearm. By being neutral, you end up having more control over that bell by curling that handle in a little bit. And if you crush that handle with your hand, there's a muscle on the top of your forearm that will activate and provide a little bit of a padding. With lighter weights, and this is again why I say get a lot of reps in with a yoga block or a shoe, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time with the lighter weights, because the lighter weights sit higher up on your wrist, so it gets more into the bony area. When you start getting into heavier bells, there's a bigger surface area to the bell itself, and it'll sit lower on your wrist where there's more muscle, so there's more padding. So if you get really, really good with your technique with a very lightweight, like said yoga block, it's easier to quickly progress to good weight that is going to be challenging enough and disperse some of that pressure lower down on your forearm. However, even with the heavy weights, it's super important that you are neutral or even curled in slightly with your hand. When you get into the heavier weights, something that is helpful is that when you go to pick it up, rather than have it sit on the ground, tip the weight towards you slightly and overshoot your hand through so it's sitting deep in that web of the hand between your thumb and your pointer finger. And what that'll do is that it gives you a little bit of a better angle to kind of pre-curl in. So when the weight is super heavy and you've pre-curled in, it'll end up just pulling your wrist back to neutral, rather than if you start at neutral, if that weight's super heavy, it's wanting to pull you back because you don't have the same mechanical advantage. So what this looks like when we have a bell in our hands is to demonstrate from the side here. I'm starting off in that fetal position, the side lying position. Now I have a bell right here that I'm going to use. When I go, I'm going to tip it towards me and get a little bit of that pre-curl. Grabbing tightly using two hands, I'm going to roll to my back. Rotate so that, actually this way so that you can see the whole thing. Now, from here, leg is straight. Same side of the leg is bent. I'm going to take two hands, press this up, come up to my elbow right here, digging this elbow into the ground. If you need a reminder, keep your hand off the ground. Make a fist if that helps, but we're digging the elbow, pressing through the heel, pulling ourselves up in that nice tall position right here, up to our tall sit, adjusting as we need to, into our windmill, sitting back, coming up, closing the gate as it were, swinging that leg closed, stepping up into our top of the get up. This is the leg that steps back. I'm going to open this up. Hinge, hand on my hip. I dip, you dip, we dip. I'm going to press this heel into the ground super, super hard, being stacked through here. Smoothly sit my way down to the elbow, and slowly down to my back. Bring the bell down to the side, roll, and done. Now that is how you do a Turkish get-up. When it comes to programming, loading parameters, start off with sets of one. Getting a minimum of 5 reps of 5 sets of 1 rep each side is like great way of just practicing it as part of your warm-up. You can do it as a mobility drill in your warm-up using something super light. You can use it as a primer drill. You can use it as a strength movement. All kinds of ways that you can do that. And we get into more of the Turkish get-up programming in our programming modules. Minimum of 5 reps per side is kind of my go-to. Maximum of 10 reps per side most days. Although you can get into higher volume Turkish get-up programs if that's really the only thing that you're going to be doing. Be mindful of that. Also be mindful that when you get into multiple reps per set, it's extremely taxing and fatiguing, because one rep on a Turkish get-up is probably going to take you, if you're doing it properly, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. So a set of 5 turns into a very long set. Being mindful of that. One thing that is also helpful is talking your way through all the different steps as you go and narrating to yourself, calling out your work. That helps keep your technique locked in. Once you get to 5 reps per set, that's really about all you're gonna need. I've done like a set of 10 before, and the weight was so light that it was just more of like a, can I do this? And I'm like getting myself out of breath. But at what end, I was using, I think at the time, like 25% of like my 1 rep max, because that was like the weight that I could actually keep locked out and be controlled with for fucking 10 reps. 5 reps is plenty. Generally though, I stick between 1 to 3 reps. It's a very demanding strength exercise. Keep that in mind and treat it as a strength exercise. So that is the Turkish get-up. That's how you go through it. That's how you can spot check yourself with video, using a shoe or a block if you don't have the video. And that's how you program it. This is, again, one of the best exercises you will ever do. I highly recommend it. That's the Turkish get-up. Catch you in the next video.